If somebody had told me, oh yeah, this chick is related to Epstein.
I can't believe you committed suicide. I cannot believe you committed suicide. How could you have done this? How could you have committed suicide?
Everything would make so much more sense. If you're anything like me, you're probably asking yourself, who is Allison Brie and why should I fucking care? I think Allison Mack was sentenced in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, on charges of racketeering.
Oh yeah, the bitch.
Now that might not seem like a big deal, but it's a big deal in the larger context of things. So basically, this Allison Mack character was involved in a cult called Nexus, and it's spelled exactly the way that you would expect a cult to spell Nexus. It started out as this whole self-help thing, and weirdly, it spiraled into a sex cult.
Two chicks at the same time, man.
It was basically led by this guy named Keith Raniere. It's French. I'm just going to call him Keith. So it was ran by this guy named Keith Raniere. Like I said, I'm a little fuzzy on the infrastructure and how that worked exactly. However, from what I've been reading, it seems as though you had Nexus, and then a part of Nexus, like a subset of that, was the DOS or DOS, I think it is. And Allison Mack was on the very top of that. It's so easy to separate these two people, but they're not. They go hand in hand together. So you've got Keith Raniere on the very top, and then his right-hand woman. But part of the way that infrastructure worked is you had a master and a slave. So this kind of worked like a pyramid scheme where you had your masters on top and then everybody else kind of did the bidding. Because that's exactly how a cult works. And like in any cult, there's certain things that you have to do.
Because if the girl said no, then the answer obviously is no.
No.
But the thing is she's not gonna say no. She would never say no because of the implication.
And what ended up happening is she would recruit people, essentially grooming them through the process, would send them to Raniere. They had to give Keith photos of them nude. They had to sleep with him. Another one that I saw is that they would have to give him compromising material. They were essentially setting themselves up for blackmail. They would give compromising documents or materials or photos and all that jazz. And then if they decided to leave the cult, they would use it against them.
Gotcha, bitch.
Preemptive blackmailing, that's what it is. Standard operational procedures for a cult.
Supply and command.
So Allison Mack was charged with getting all these girls into the cult. And I mean charged by Keith. She didn't actually get charged with anything like the trafficking of it or anything like that. She only got charged with racketeering.
Whack.
And if you really don't think that they were that interconnected within the cult, I would just like to remind you that they would actually brand members with their own initials, both Allison's and Keith. He actually ended up getting sentenced for 120 years. And he got charged with a bunch of shit. He had sex trafficking, racketeering, cheese pizza. This was his accomplice. This was his right-hand woman. She got sentenced for 3 years and then got an early release for 2.
Why?
So yeah, he was the head honcho, but she was very clearly at the very top of that totem pole. Because if you look at her apology or the commentary, there's a letter, I'll put it up here. There's a letter and it's just all about her. You can tell that there's hardly any remorse. I highly recommend you see the Jessica Jones interview because it is really, it's powerful stuff. But keep in mind, she was not a follower. All these victims are traumatized, right? She is acting like she was traumatized, that she was victimized. She was on the very top of this. How on earth can you claim that you are a victim in this when you were literally recruiting people into this cult? I understand that even if you're leaving a cult as somebody that high up, you're going to have regrets. The fact of the matter is that she deserves just as long as a sentence as he does. She is not the victim in this. She put so many people in harm's way. I'm gonna throw this out as almost like a thought experiment. If Keith apologized, would you accept it? Why this means a little bit more to me than I think most people is that I was raised in what you could consider a cult. It wasn't as flamboyant. I would say the best way to describe it is like pseudo-Mennonites. Women couldn't cut their hair, men couldn't grow their hair out, they were homophobic, women couldn't wear pants, men couldn't get tattoos. Looking at me, I'm sure that you can realize that I did not follow in those footsteps. And like their main tenet of this belief was that Jesus Christ had already come. They're not waiting on the second coming of Christ. They think that he already showed up. It gets more complicated, but like a lot of cults, it doesn't make sense no matter what way you cut it. So, especially being born into it, completely illogical, no rationality at all in it. It's a cult mentality and you just can't get away from it. Normally, I want my content to just like make you guys laugh, but when I saw this on the news, I just couldn't get past it. It's so incredibly fucked up. It's insanity. It's insane. And just real quick, to extend an olive branch, try to find meaning for yourself. You don't have to feel empty just because you don't fit into society. It's tough, it sucks, but it is what it is. Anyway, like, comment, and subscribe. Create your own meaning.